sinners who has hurt all mankind. Just save his own belief. One love. What about a one heart? What about a little? Get together and feel alright. As it was in the beginning. One love. So shall it be in the end. One heart. Alright. Thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Almost there. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. One love. So when the man comes, there will be no doom. One soul. Have pity on those whose chances grow thin. There ain't no hiding place from the Father of creation. Yeah, yeah. One love. What about the one heart? What about the let's get together and feel alright? I'm fleeing to mankind. One love. One heart. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright.
You held me in your arms and made love to me. Yeah. My heart's desire. Your lips caressing, your body possessing, not you. I could. The time would stand still and leave us feel this way. You know what? I'll be satisfied being here with you. You set my mind on fire anytime you're near. My body and soul belong to you. Oh, don't ever say we're through. We're still love on the side. Still love on the side. You don't belong to me. I don't belong to you. Still we're together. If that's enough for you, it's enough for me. Your time is here, and you've got to leave and go home to your family. And your woman, she'll be waiting there for you. Oh, Lord knows there's no explaining the love we share. It's just between us two. You can't stay away from me. I can't stay away from you. Honey, we belong. And right now, we're still love on the side. Still love on the side. You don't belong to me. I don't belong to you. Still we're together. If that's enough for you, it's enough for me.
It's all about you. LA's fine sunshine most of the time. And the feeling is laid back. Palm tree road, rain so low, don't you know? But I keep working my way back. But I'm a Jamaican boy who's born and raised. Nowadays I'm lost between two shores. LA's fine, but it ain't home. New York is home, but it ain't mine no more. I am myself to no one there, and no one heard at all, not even the chair. I am my pride. I am said and I am lost, and I can't even say why. Leaving me lonely still. Did you read about a father who dreamed of being a king? And they all became one, except for the name. A few other changes to talk about me. The story is the same one, and I've got this emptiness deep inside.
I've heard a lot about your show, and I've heard a lot about you. So this is actually an honor for me.
Oh, thank you. It's more honor for me because you know what? When I months ago, after I read about you and I saw you doing so many things, and everywhere I go, I see a picture or I see you, I said, wait, I really need to talk to this guy because one of the things I want to do is to uplift young people. And when I see people like you in our community doing so much, I said, wait, I have to get Richard. And so I'm so glad I have like DJ Fest and so on. And Kayla tagged you on the post. And so I was so glad she did it. So it is an honor for me because when I think of our story, it's similar. I mean, I saw you on the train talking. I said, we're going to bust this up tonight. So welcome again. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to have Richard here. Before we go, let's say hello to some people who's watching us. Maria Harris, thank you very much. Maureen Ramcharan, thank you very much. And good afternoon. Debbie Sanyasi. Maria Harris says hello to Rajiv Nandalal. Thank you very much. Kausala Prasad, thank you so much. And I know Roxanne Hamilton, she is the Guyanese, and she said, you know what, she want to really listen to all the things that you want to say, Richard. Let's see who else we have here. Shelly Bacchus, thank you very much for tuning in. And Red Sonia is saying good night to all of us here. So, Richard, he is 34 years old. He was born in Maikoni on the east coast of Demerara in Guyana. I had a lot of friends who was from Maikoni side. He migrated to the United States with his family, and we will have to hear all about this. Richard has a master's degree from New York University, which I'm so glad at such a young age you have a master's degree. And can you tell he's such a small little guy with big brains, and I'm so glad. I'm glad for that. He's an adjunct professor at your college right here in Queens. And when I heard this and I read this, I was like, wow, he is a professor. That's a good thing. So we will have a good conversation. Richard became a homeowner at age 25 years old. And that alone of itself speaks volume of the man he is.
I didn't think you knew that. How did you find that?
Well,
that's funny.
You know, Richard,
you did your. I can tell you did your research because I didn't. I didn't send a bio over. I don't think.
No.
And that's not in it, but that's true.
But you know, Richard, one of the things, and I'm going to deviate a little bit from what we are talking, and then I always say to myself that anyone that comes here, I want to put the bright light on them. and I want to showcase who we have in our community, especially our Guyanese, you know what I'm saying? And that's a good thing. So yes, I do a lot to read. I spend nearly all day getting these things together so we can talk. You know, he co-founded the Indo-Caribbean Alliance, which has become one of the largest Guyanese organization in New York. And later on, I'm going to ask him what his organization does. Richard is running for the New York State Assembly, District 31, and must be noted, he is the most qualified person running and the qualified candidate. And guess what? He has raised the most money. So I am so honored. I'm so glad to have you here. And you have to tell me how you do this, but I got an idea how you did all of this. And you know what? The election is scheduled for Tuesday, April 28th. Right?
April 28th, yep. The same day as the presidential.
Oh, yes? All right. We were going to talk about presidential, but, you know, I know that you have to be born American before you become a president.
Yes.
So later on, we'll talk more about that. You know, we have never had in South Asian, Indo-Caribbean, or a Guyanese to be elected to serve as council a member. The stage is set for you to become the first Guyanese to be elected in the city council in New York. What is the feeling like? And I'm going to ask you that a little later on. I got so much question to you. The other thing is that, you know, to get the election ballot, he needed 450 signatures from registered Democrat in the district where he were needed. And guess what? He had 2,100 people sign that sheet for he to run for this position.
You are incredible. I don't even know. That's like inside information.
Yes?
Well, I'm sure you got it from some public source, but that's
yeah.
also not something that many people would ever
Really?
know. Yes.
But, you know, the thing is that I was looking through all the papers and everything, any information I could get. I Googled you from like a week ago after you said yes. I said, you know what? I have to get as much information. Because one of the things, Richard, you know, as a guy who's running for public office, people needs to know who you are really.
Yeah.
And tonight I'm going to set the stage so you can tell myself and all our viewers who Richard David really is.
Okay.
We get actually more than 5,000 people watch our show by the end of the week. So
amazing.
I
Amazing.
hope that you get a lot of people to watch, to vote you in to be actually the first Guyanese to hold this position. So I'm going to ask my DJ to get this music going, and after we come back, I will ask David some good questions, okay? You can ask me any question, type in any question you want me to ask him, and I'll definitely read it to him. So let's go.
तुम नहीं
today we have a special young man here, Richard David. As most of you guys know that he's running for government office, right?
Yeah, I'm running for the New York State Assembly in District 31.
That's good. So, David, my question to you is, how long ago you migrated to the United States and at what age?
I came here at 10, and my parents had already been living here. So my brothers and I stayed back in Guyana with our aunts and our grandparents, which is a very familiar story for many, many Guyanese people to migrate. And so my parents came up here probably 5 or 6 years, and I think I was 5 when they left.
Okay.
And it's funny because when I met them when I met them again for the first time, I didn't recognize them.
Oh, really?
Because I was a kid when they left, and I guess I don't know. I guess I had an idea of who they were in my head, and it didn't like directly match up.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, I know you said that your mom worked hard for you too. How was life for you when you got here? You came at a young age. You had to go to school. How was it for you to blend into the New York life?
The biggest shock, and not shock, but I couldn't believe that we could afford to pave even the sidewalks on our streets.
Wow.
In Guyana, I was from a rural village, Maikoni, and we didn't even have money to pave the road. And I was like, these people have enough money to pave even the sidewalk for people to walk on.
Right.
Little things like that always stood out to me. And but like everyone else, it's hard to adjust. I didn't speak American English, and that meant that when I did speak, people would laugh or I would get a look, and I became really self-conscious. And then I went to school. I was in the 5th grade, and for all through, I think until like freshman year of high school, I don't think I really spoke in class ever because I was so self-conscious.
Wow.
And but during that time, I really absorbed a lot, and I tried to learn this new accent, and you assimilate. I began learning about the foods and learning about liking pizza and these things. All of this is brand new to me.
Right.
Well, back then it was brand new to me.
And I remember when I came here, I was 25 when I got here, and I remember going to the deli. I don't even know how to order, like the lettuce and tomato and salt and pepper and vinegar.
Even the word deli, I didn't understand what that was.
Really?
Because we don't use that word in Guyana.
Right. It's such a funny thing when we left our country and we migrated to the United States. And sometimes it's so difficult for some of us. But you know what? For you at a young age, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's easier. So I'm one of 3 brothers, and I'm actually the youngest.
Oh, really?
And I do think it was easier for me because I was so young. I was able to assimilate much faster and easier than my older brothers.
I also learned that you started to work at a very young age.
Yeah, I've always been really active, and my family and my parents have always encouraged me to do anything I want to do. And I started working at 12 years old. I became a summer camp counselor for the Summer Youth Employment Program here in New York City. Now, I'm this little kid. I'm a camp counselor, so I'm overseeing some kids that are actually bigger than me.
Yeah.
They're 10-year-olds, and some of them are 11-year-olds, but they were a lot bigger than I was. They had to listen to me.
Right. Isn't that funny? Because you're so small in stature, and but like I said, you have a big brain, which is a very good thing to do. And so I know that you have your master's degree. What was the driving force for you to continue your education, especially knowing that there's so many influence out there like drugs, alcohol, and so on?
My family always prioritized education. It was, if you're Guyanese, you have to cram, you have to. But I'm actually not that good in school, to be honest with you.
Really?
I had a hard time finishing high school.
Wow.
I'm terrible in math, and it got to a point where I almost didn't graduate because I wasn't doing well in math, and I just wasn't absorbing the information that I needed to pass all of the Regents exams. And I got extra help, and my parents were very encouraging, and my mom even got a private tutor, but I also took a bunch of classes and stuff. And that is actually the story of a lot of young men. And I know you're going to talk about the reason why I started the Indo-Caribbean Alliance.
Right, we'll talk about
A lot of young men in the neighborhood, the graduation rate was 50%. And these are Guyanese boys just like me. And we've lost an entire generation of Guyanese men in New York City who didn't finish even high school.
Wow.
So I am very lucky, and I do take education seriously. And then I went to the City University of New York. I went to John Jay, and then I went to Hunter College.
Wow.
And I'm so happy about those decisions because I left without student debt. A lot of young people today have the highest amounts of student debt in the nation in New York City.
Yes.
I'm running for the New York State Assembly because I can help to address how predatory lending works for people who are taking out student loans.
Right,
My
right.
cousin actually texted me the other day, and she couldn't get a loan, or the interest rate was 14%. Can you imagine paying a 14% interest rate?
Yes.
When these kids graduate, they're going to be paying this loan for 10, 20 years. They can't buy a house. They can't
Right.
start their lives.
Yes.
So we got to really look for that. I take education very seriously, and I didn't want to get my master's,
Really?
and I didn't. I got lucky. I got a job, and I began working, and I knew that if I was going to be as successful as I could be, I needed a master's. In the different work settings that I was a part of, a lot of people had their masters, and I knew, although I didn't want to go back to school,
Right.
that if I wanted to do well, I needed to get a master's degree. And I also knew that I needed to go to a well-respected university. So I was lucky that I got a full scholarship when I applied to New York University. Actually, I got a partial scholarship, and then my job helped to pay for the rest because they were so you got to go do this, and I did it, and now it's to be honest with you though, it was like checking off a box because I knew I needed to do it, and because it had to be done, I did it, and it has opened a tremendous amount of doors for me.
I'm glad you say that, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you too, David, when I was growing up in high school, I failed all my exams to the last grade. Everything, I failed everything. And I was like, my God. But my dad was always telling me, you know what, you are going to be a cane cutter. I'm going to sharpen a cutlass. I'm going to sharpen a cutlass for you.
Hey.
And I have in that press, I have a cutlass for you to cut cane when you grow up.
Uh-huh.
But in my mind,
Wait, so did you cut cane or?
No, I did not. And guess what? In my mind, in my young mind growing up, I said to myself, I wanted to be somebody. I want to have a title behind my name. And so I went and did I knew I wanted to be a nurse. And so I went and did the test to enter nursing school. And luckily that I passed because I was a guy who 2 and 2 equals 10, right? So, when I get into nursing school, it was...
I work with some of those people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And guess what? The good thing about the story, about my story, is that, and I always say it because I don't know who's listening and who we really can impact. And that's why I'm glad you're saying this story. And when I graduated as a nurse, I was a valedictorian in the class.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes. And after 2 years working as a nurse, I have got another meritorious award from Guyana as a nurse. And today, like I was telling you, and today is the first day that we are meeting. I spent 25 years working in Harlem with the poor, the underserved, and you name it.
Amazing. It's amazing. And what I'm hearing there also is how charitable we are as a people. Everywhere I turn, I see Guyanese people looking to see how we can help somebody.
Yes.
Everywhere I turn, I'm so blessed that so many people have reached out to me to help me, like yourself.
Right.
And the same way that you're reaching out and helping communities in Harlem all over, that's who we are. That's our, that's when we say we're Guyanese, that's something to be incredibly proud of.
Yes, and before we get a song, and you know what, in my nursing year career, I have amassed actually over about 25 nursing award.
Okay.
And I believe that, like I've always tell people, always being kind and be good. And even if you have to scrub the floor, you better do a good job so people can sit. So let's go to our DJ, and he's going to play a song. I
got to say, I think you would have been a good cane cutter as well. You could be a nurse and a cane cutter.
Right, yes, and we can anything that we choose to do.
We can
yes,
once you put our minds to it, I think we can do anything. I really believe that we can do anything.
Absolutely correct. Let's go.
इश्क इबारत बन गया खुद को मुझे तू सौंप दे मेरी जरूरत तू बन गया बात दिल की नजरों की सच कह रहा तेरी कसम तेरे बिन लब न लेंगे कभी दम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तेरे बिन लब न लेंगे कभी दम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तेरे साथ हो जाएगी कदम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम बात दिल की नजरों की सच कह रहा तेरी कसम तेरे बिन लब न लेंगे कभी दम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तेरे साथ हो जाएगी कदम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम इस चाह गई चाहती अब मेरी छीन लूंगा तुम्हें सारी दुनिया से तेरी इश्क की बिहार अब मेरा ही तो है कह दिया है ये मैंने तेरे रब से भी जिस रास्ते तू ना मिली उस पे न हो मेरी कदम तेरे बिन लब न लेंगे कभी दम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तेरे साथ हो जाएगी कदम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम
Body, my passion's craving the love you give it, driving me crazy, moving that body. My passion's craving the love you give it. Please don't make me wait any longer. I cannot control this desire, burning up inside with fever. Come on, take me higher. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the lights, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the light, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Just like the movies, it's never ending. You know you want me, just stop pretending. I'll give you your wish, you'll give me mine. Let's be together till end of time. Please don't make me wait any longer. I cannot control this desire, burning up inside with fever. Come on, take me higher. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the lights, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the light, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Driving me crazy, moving that body. My passion's craving the love you've given. Please don't and take me higher. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the lights, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Hold me around my waist, take me to that place. Move your body slow, let the passion grow. Take off the lights, come and hold me tight. Come let me be your chutney baby tonight. Driving me crazy.
I want to say congratulations to Sonia and her husband. Happy anniversary. I wish you guys many, many years more of togetherness. Also, I would like to say happy birthday to Jordan, a young man. His mother is a friend of this show. Congratulations. I hope that and pray that God bless you with a long and healthy life. One of the things is that I'm glad I'm showing this picture here, David. And, sometimes these things really touch me when I'm seeing that our human being have to live like this. And so the reason I'm showing this came to my attention yesterday. And so I reached out to Buddy Singh in New York here. I tagged him on the post, and I'm so glad that he is going to do something about this, take her out of this situation that she is in. As you know, sometimes life could be very tough for people in Guyana. So Buddy Singh, I'm so glad that you are doing something about this. And definitely I'm going to throw my little weight I have to help with your organization. And don't forget, guys, Chutney Wine, this is how they get their money to help people in Guyana and elsewhere. I want to say hello to
I just on that note, I appreciate that you blurred out the person's face. Because I think sometimes in an effort to raise funds and do things, we take pictures to show poverty and we want people to respond to it. And in that process, I think sometimes we forget that we're talking about people and their dignity is lost sometimes in this process. I'm really happy that you blurred that out.
Yeah. I didn't want to 5,000 people to see her pictures, and that's why I did that. And I'm so glad that you're here too. So probably later on we all could chime in and help in Guyana. And I'm not saying in terms of you financially, but
I'm happy to help.
Yeah, having you around, and that's one reason I want people to know who Richard is, because it's always good to have a Guyanese advocating in so many ways for us, and we are going to talk to him more. So let's go, David. What advice do you have for young people, young kids coming up in your situation?
So you mean young people who are undocumented?
Right. You can talk.
Yeah, I came here backtrack. I came here without my papers. I came here, to rejoin my family. Right. And we're in a place in our country right now where it's actually really scary. Just last night, I got a call from a friend who says to me, his wife or his friend's wife was detained by ICE. What do I do? He's asking me, what do I do? It's, we are under a president who has really built an incredible amount of fear in a nation of immigrants. And my election would not just send a message all the way to the White House that we support diversity. It would also show that we support people who come here with nothing and who contribute and work hard and are the fabric of every neighborhood in New York City. And for the young people who are dreamers like I was, dreamers are young people who don't have their papers and they grew up here and they came here as kids. I hope that we elect a president that will legalize your status. And until then, we just have to be careful and we have to know our rights. Even though you're undocumented, you have rights. And it's very important that we know what to do in situations that are threatening.
And that's why, too, it's important that we elect people like you two, because, passing through that road, the struggles that we had and you had, so you'll try to advocate for people like us and for yourself who pass through, and it could be difficult. And I heard you said something that you were scared people knocking at your door?
Yeah, I grew up in illegal housing. We lived in a really small apartment, and then we lived in a basement after that. Again, like many people I know, and because my parents actually got divorced, I'm very happy that they did.
Really?
Because I think that some people are happier apart, and my parents were definitely happier apart. But it meant that they were working night and day, and they were working very, very long hours, and you couldn't, it's very expensive to hire a babysitter, and
Right.
so yeah, we were afraid of anyone knocking on the door, my brother and I, because it could be the housing department because we're living in an illegal apartment. It could be ACS because we're kids and we're home alone, and it could just be somebody who you just never know.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're growing up, your parents warn you, don't open the door if you're home alone and somebody comes. And that was that was in my launch video, and I talk about it because one of the biggest issues we face in New York City, the biggest issue, is housing. We have 69,000 people who are homeless,
Right.
and we have a tremendous amount of people who are homeowners and are being taxed unfairly more than everyone else. We also have, when I go to the senior centers, every person, you know what they tell me they want? Senior housing.
Yes.
They don't want to just live in their kid's basement or something like that. And so they want to be close with the family. But a lot of seniors want to be independent, and they want senior housing. And our government should be looking at that.
Yes. I'm talking to him about some personal things now, but at probably 6 o'clock, we want to know what he is planning to do for his people and his neighborhood. So,
Okay.
We'll talk more about that. My next question to you, David, is how did you manage to graduate without a student loan? And I can tell you, because I work with a lot of people who did their master's degree, and guess what? They have a big loan, and they always tell me, I can't afford this. What do you tell these people? And I'm going to go further. I want to know, does it really matters you get a master's degree and then have a big loan ahead of you? It doesn't make sense to me that you take so big loan and you spend the rest of your life paying off that loan.
Yeah, I went to John Jay College, and I went to Hunter, the City University of New York, where the tuition's a lot less than a private college, and the reputation of some of the CUNY colleges is actually really good. It's internationally recognized. Foreign students are actually coming to New York City just to go to our public colleges. So I encourage people to go to our public colleges if you can, because the education is good, and your reputation for employers when you graduate it's well respected. So that's a hard message sometimes to get out, because I know a lot of hardworking families want to send their kids to places like St. John's or Fordham or other places, and they're really good universities as well. But the tuition is $40,000-$50,000 a year, and I say that as my brother went to St. John's.
Oh, really?
So I have a lot of respect for people who go to private university as well. I worry about the debt burden. I paid for college by working. We qualified for FAFSA. FAFSA is where the government helps you to pay for your tuition. And for the portion that the government didn't pay, like transportation, lunch, textbooks, clothing. You're a young person in college. You're still dating. You're going out.
Yes.
You have expenses. And so I worked throughout college. I always had a job.
Yeah, and to start working at such a young age, that's really incredible. And that's why I think you are such a role model for our community, especially for young people. Know that, you came from another country and you still can make it. At what age did you realize that, I wanted to be a politician? Or when you're growing up, you said, okay, I want to be a teacher. But now that you're older, I know you're a politician. What gave you that drive? Or how old you know that I'm going to be a politician?
I didn't know. When I began working, I was actually the youngest person on my community board. And I've just always wanted to be involved. And when I was a kid, I was so fascinated by Guyana politics. I insisted that my parents drive me all the way to Washington, D.C. to like visit the Guyana embassy, and they did that. So my parents have always been so supportive. And my mom is actually a big campaigner in this campaign because she, like so many people in our community, is really networked. And, some people that don't listen to me will listen to her. I'm lucky to have my mom that has my back. I didn't know I wanted to be a politician, though. I created an organization called the Indo-Caribbean Alliance.
Okay.
When I graduated from college, my friends and I looked around, and we were worried that we weren't seeing the kinds of progress that we wanted to see in our neighborhood. We weren't seeing organizations that, like I said, we had a 50% graduation rate. 50%. 1 out of 2 kids were not graduating. Then I looked around, and all I saw was cultural shows, which are beautiful, but they were not attacking the real issues that we had in our community, like the graduation rate. When I looked around, young men were getting arrested through stop and frisk for marijuana, for all kinds of petty things. And they were getting records that either they were spending time in jail or they were just never going to be able to get a good job because your criminal record travels with you.
Yes.
We weren't seeing a lot of role models in our neighborhood that people could turn to. A lot of people, when they're very successful, they leave the neighborhood.
Yes.
And so young people growing up don't see a lot of, Guyanese, young men, young women doing really well in their careers that they feel like they can turn to and they can have as role models. So we created the Indo-Caribbean Alliance, and eventually people began talking to me about running for office. And I constantly, blocked it out because I was very focused on building an organization that, I'll say this. The organization grew a budget of $150,000.
Wow.
We hired full-time staff, and we rented a space so that we can have a fully functional community center. Good. And I'm incredibly proud of all we achieved with the Indo-Caribbean Alliance. I decided to run for public office in 2017, though, because the council member that we had at the time, I didn't feel like they were the best representative of my neighborhood. I didn't feel like they were the best representative of the things that I was fighting for. And I've never been someone to just complain. If I think there's something that needs addressing, I'm going to do it myself, or I'm not going to complain about it.
Right.
And I was really unhappy with the politics in my neighborhood. I live in South Ozone Park, and I decided that I was going to run for office. And that's, I guess, where I became a politician, which, some people think it's a bad word. I'm really, in that election, we got more people to vote than have ever voted in any election in that neighborhood. People were expecting about 500 votes from this area. We got over 3,000 or 4,000 votes. And we lost by, I think, 1 or 2%.
Wow.
It was razor thin. And so people started to pay attention to this neighborhood. And I am so proud that I did that. And I'm beginning to embrace the term politician. I just worry about, there's a lot of negative connotation when people say, oh, he's a politician.
Right.
And I really don't, I see, I want to change the way people look at that word because I want more people to be involved in politics. I don't want people to think that politics isn't for them. I don't want people to think that it's negative and people lie. In any industry, people are going to lie. And if we keep telling people, oh, I'm too good for politics, then who are the people that are going to be in politics? Only the bad ones. So if you think you're so good, and if you think you want to see your neighborhood improve, get involved in politics. Get involved in your neighborhood, and there's simply no reason to not be.
And, as we're talking about politics...
It's a little bit of a serious tone.
That's okay. I get serious sometimes, too. And that leads me to a question to you. What do you, or how do you advise those people out there who say, you know what, my vote doesn't mean anything. Let me stay home today. What's your advice to them? I mean, I could tell them what to do, but what's your advice to those who sit down home?
First of all, I'll do a plug. The last day to register to vote for me is February 28th. You got to be registered by the end of this month in order to vote for me on April 28th.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know this, especially if you're Guyanese. My parents even, they believe that the voting system here is so democratic, it's so open, and it's not like Guyana. It's actually easier to vote in Guyana than it is to vote in New York. The system is deliberately designed to keep some people out of it.
Wow.
And in New York, here's an example. If you're not registered with the Democratic Party, you can't vote at all.
Wow.
So you can be registered, and you can, a lot of people say this to me. I want to be independent. I want to vote for the person, not for the party. I want to be able to pick and choose each time. It means that you can't vote in the primary elections.
Oh, really?
And in New York, the primary elections determine the winner. So if you're not voting in the primaries, your voice doesn't count.
Wow.
And so it's really frustrating for me because when I hear my vote doesn't matter, you not voting and dozens of people not voting in entire areas, you make it easy for elected officials to ignore you and ignore us. And I want to change that. And the way to change that is to give people something to believe in. Give people candidates that they can get behind. Give people candidates that they're excited about. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to people being excited about a candidate, excited about a cause, excited about a reason to come out and vote. Right? They're not just going to robotically come out and vote. And it's an education process too.
And you said it right. You take the word out of my mouth because, David, a lot of Guyanese, a lot of us came here and don't understand the voting process. So
it's
I believe you have to.
incredibly complicated.
Yeah,
in my last election, they changed all the poll sites 2 weeks before the election day because they knew we were doing so well. And if you change all the poll sites 2 weeks before the election date, and you're an older person and you go to vote and you can't vote there, you're not going to travel to the next poll site.
Wow.
If you're a working person and you only have a couple of minutes to go and vote, you're going to go to work now because you've given your couple of minutes. So it's not an open and
right.
pure process. But what I say to people is learn to play the game and play it well. So that's how the game is played, and I'm learning it, and I'm going to try to play it as best as I can.
All right, you got all the S card to play. Also, we can continue. We're going to get our DJ to get a song. Let's talk. You got so much money, more than everybody else. How you managed to pull that one off? And then also, you had a lot of big guns behind you. You want to answer the question now, or when we come back?
Let's answer that when we come back. But
Okay.
I will say this: I need people to donate $5, $10. Donate what you can. My website is richarddavid.nyc. I'm only ahead of this race because I'm working my tail off, and I need to make sure that everyone is invested.
Well, that's a good way to go. Let's go with some music. We'll catch our breath and we'll come back. Sometimes that's really. It's not. No. It's not
All
today.
day, so lost in love. Just can't get enough. All day, so lost in love. Each and every moment, every minute, every day. Just can't get enough. Wanna always be together, never go away.
देखो तुझे चुनूं तुझे सोचूं तुझे सुनूं तुझे बस यही तुझ में डूबा रहूं डूबा रहूं मैं तुझ में ही तुझ में डूबा रहूं. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do.
देखो तुझे चुनूं तुझे सोचूं तुझे सुनूं तुझे बस दिल तुझ में डूबा रहे दिल तुझ में ही तुझ में डूबा रहे. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do.
That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. पहले मैं तुझसे मिलता था अब तुझ में खुलता जाऊं ख्वाब में घर हाथ बढ़ाऊं हाथ तेरा पाऊं.
खुशबू को जैसे मुझे और ले तू हर ख्याल महकता हो ये सांस लेके तेरे साथ का हर लम्हा सरकता हो.
डूबा
में डूबा रहूं. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do. That's all I really wanna do.
क्या ये जलता क्या हुआ है दिल किनारे मिल रही है संग संग हम पानियों पे चल रहे हैं
हो नींद नहीं है ये मैं आ रहा हूँ आने दो लहराने दो सांसों से तेरी मैं जुड़ने लगा हूँ ख्वाहिशें बन जाने दो
डूबा रही तुम डूबा रही दिल डूबा डूबा रही That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do
That's all I really wanna do
Welcome back to the Ken Rampersaud Show here on Island Zone Radio in New York. Guys, please continue to share the page so that we can get all this information out. In the meantime, let's say hello to Geeta Singh, Gloria Manik, Lena, thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see who else. Girly Prasad, she's one of our celebrity singer actually out in Florida. Michael Nalini Naidu, you probably met them before. They're our celebrity couple, always dressed nicely at these shows. Babita Gal, thank you very much for tuning in. I see my sister Naomi Ramdash, she said the IRS on New York State takes their tax refund anyone who aren't current on their payment. Asha Raghunandan, thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see, Horace Sankar, thank you very much for tuning in. Bibi Zabida, thank you for tuning in. Let's see who else we have. Bibi Haq, thank you, my dear. Sukde Mangal, thank you for tuning in. Roxanne again, thank you very much for watching the show. And again, I'm going to say, please continue to share the page. John from Queens, I'm sure you probably met John from Queens.
I met John. I enjoy his videos, and I'm a big fan of him.
Yes, and you always say like tomorrow we're gonna see this show on YouTube. So he is doing a fantastic job.
He has millions of viewers.
Yes, yes,
or fans.
Yes.
And he shared my launch video.
Oh, he did.
And I was so happy that he did that. Now our message is getting out there.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? I'm not happy to say it like this, but he's a white guy that putting out our Indian and Guyanese messages out there, which is a good thing. Sheila Mangar watching from Suriname, thank you very much. Mary Ann Lou all the way from Canada, thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see who else we have. Nita Jagdev, she said, we are very proud of you, Richard David. You are a living legacy of who we are as people of the beautiful country. With such rich culture, you are smart, kind, and has the ability to make things happen for all in our community. And she's saying good luck. Thank you very much for your comment. Let's go now. So how you were able to amass all this money to help you? Because sometimes it's hard to get, people don't want to really give money.
Fundraising is really hard. You gotta, and actually I learned this when I was working at a young age. I was a valet. I valeted cars in Long Island at a fancy restaurant. That's how I helped to pay for college. But what I learned is people will say, if you ask 10 people to do something, to donate something that they may not like, if 9 of them say no to you, the 10th one probably will. And so you want to hurry up and get the no's out the way so you can get your one person that'll say yes. So I ask a lot of people to donate what they can. And I'm lucky that, again, this community has been really generous. This community gives. This community opens its pocketbooks. And that's how we are going to win this election. And it's important to raise funds because it's how you hire a campaign manager. It's how you get people to knock on doors. It's how you mail out literature. It's how you rent and pay for an office space. And there are no matching funds. In New York City, there's something called matching funds program. So if you raise $1, they give you $8.
Right.
I'm in the state. And so in state elections, there are no matching funds. What you raise is what you have. And so if you can raise money, you can actually reach a lot of people. We have 139,000 people that live in the 31st Assembly District. It costs a lot of money to reach them.
And so if so people can donate to you, how can they go ahead and donate to you?
There are a lot of ways. If you want to do it online, you can go to richarddavid.nyc, and that's my name. I have two first names, Richard David .nyc, and now that's actually my name. I didn't change it or anything like that. Somebody may have changed it while they were on the boat coming here from India, but since I was born, that was my name. And we're having a launch event on March 9th at the Villa Russo in Richmond Hill. It's going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. Please come out. You can give whatever you're able to give. But I'd love to have a full room. I'd love to have people to be there.
Yeah, it's always good to have the support. Gary Prasad, thank you very much. Gita Balway, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for tuning in. Also, I would like to add that you had held 3 big positions here in New York. So you want to talk about your positions that you held? Or,
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to. My first job actually was at the Economic Development Corporation. When I graduated from college, we were, this is in 2007, at the height of the economic depression, the recession, the Great Recession, and there were not jobs to find in New York City. And it was a terrible time to graduate, and I decided I was going to go to Guyana, actually. And I've always wanted to do international work, and I didn't find anything in Guyana either. And then I came back, and I had interned when I was in college, and I called this person, and she's like, yeah, I have an opening. And I began working at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. In 8 years, I became their vice president.
What?
I was the youngest person that had become vice president, and the only Guyanese person that was on their senior team. And it was an incredible experience because I got to build things like Yankee Stadium.
Oh, really?
I got to participate in some of the major projects that changed the face of New York City. And I even got to build, remember I said I was a summer camp counselor?
Right.
I got to help build a new community center right at that space that I worked at in Richmond Hill, the South Queens Boys and Girls Club. And so and then after 8 years at the Economic Development Corporation, I wanted to try something else because I had not worked anywhere else after graduating. And now I had my master's. I worked in the day and I went to school at night.
Wow.
And I took a chance. The commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs reached out to me, and she said, I want you to come over. We're launching a citywide program. It's called the Commuter Benefits Program. This is where if you take mass transit, the subways, buses, you can get a tax deduction for your transit costs. And a lot of people, if you're in a big company, a lot of people have this. But a lot of employers were also not offering their employees this benefit. And it helps you to save taxes. So she asked me if I can roll this program out citywide. And I was like, well, I've never done something like this, but why not? And so I got to hire a team of about 15. We launched a major campaign for a full year. My ads were up on the subway. I would fall asleep on the subway. I'd take the A train, and I'd wake up, and there's my ad in front of me. And,
oh, my God.
And it's incredible that I, got to contribute to this really great program. And now we have more employers offering that tax benefit to more New Yorkers than have ever participated. And then, I got bored there again, so I wanted to do something else.
Yes.
And I took a break. And I went to the Administration for Children's Services, ACS.
Yes.
They actually hired me as a chief of staff.
Wow.
And I enjoyed my time there, too. I got to oversee some really critical reforms to the agency's process, how they managed contracts, a lot of different things. And then I left again after, now it had been about 12 years of only being in the public sector, and I went to work at a private firm.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job in our community, and I know there are a lot of great things in your way coming up. I see Nafiz and Noor. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see. Priya Prasad, all the way from Guyana. Thank you, my dear, for tuning in. And don't forget, please, share the page. She said, I'm not sure what's going on. Ken and his guest is frozen. I hope that you guys can hear us. So, I hear you talk about your mom so much. Is she that influential in your life? And then I'm going to ask you another question. I probably will know the answer. But who is your biggest role model in your life? And you can talk about your mom too.
I've had a lot of hands a lot of people have had a hand in raising me. My grandmother, my aunts and uncles when I was in Guyana.
Right.
And then I said that my parents are actually divorced.
Mm-hmm.
My stepmom is Puerto Rican, and she raised me when I was a teenager because
So
I
you
lived
should
with
know
my
Spanish.
dad. I do.
Yes.
I can speak Spanish.
Oh, good for you.
And so I grew up with a stepmom who is Puerto Rican, and my dad who recently passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear.
And thank you. And then of course my mom. My mom has always been probably the biggest influence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Not because she asks to, because I admire her. And I admire my dad too, and all the people who have raised me. But I'm lucky, a lot of people can't, say that.
You are right. And, since that, we are talking, what do you say, like with, your stepmother is from Puerto Rico and your dad is from Guyana and your parents separated. How was that experience? How, as a young man, did you were able to deal with that, your parents separating?
My parents separated while I was still in Guyana.
Okay.
And so when I came here, they had already separated. But I'm happy that my parents separated. They weren't compatible. And, I think it's fine for people to divorce. And I think you should be in relationships that you're happy with. And my parents were happier with other people and not with each other anymore. And they always looked out for us as their kids. And my mom is so happy today. It was difficult because we went to family court. There were custody disputes. There were child support battles. There were a lot. There was a lot. And then we were in counseling too.
Oh, okay.
It was normal though. It wasn't unusual.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have always had the best interests of myself and my brothers in mind, and they didn't want to lose us, so they fought for us, which is incredible. A lot of people are in single family households now. A lot of single mothers are out there. A lot of single fathers are out there, and it's sometimes we think that there's something wrong with that or it's unusual. A lot of people get divorced when they come to this country. A lot of people, and I want to make sure that I'm running for public office because it's a great opportunity to help people. And some people need counseling. Some people need a little bit of help.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that I'm offering those services in the neighborhood.
And, being a psych nurse and an addiction nurse, I have to tell people, and if you're listening, there's nothing wrong with having some counseling. Even to David probably or myself, life is not easy sometimes, and it's okay for us to talk to someone. It's good to talk to someone in a non-judgmental way. You know what I'm saying? So
I still remember my counselor, it was like therapy.
Yes.
As a child, and his name was Hugo, and he was so kind to us, and I'm not sure that we needed it, but I'm glad that we had it because it was very helpful for my brothers and I, and I don't even know where he is anymore, but
oh really?
But he had a major impact in my childhood too, as a teenager.
And you saying that, David, one of the reasons that I'm where I am today is because I have crossed paths with so many nice people, even to the job. And I remember, when I came first, I was doing security and I was standing on the door. But I've always smiled and I've always had this personality, good afternoon, how are you? And I didn't know that this guy was the vice president of a big security firm. And I would say every day, good afternoon, how are you doing? And then one day he called me and he said, how much money you really make? And I said, I make $6 an hour. And he said, listen to me, I have a better job for you. I'm going to pay you $13 an hour.
Wow.
So, and that goes to show.
You never know who you're going to meet.
Yes, and that's why we need to be kind to people and to be good. You never know who you're meeting every day on a daily basis. Even when you're on the train, always look presentable and be kind to anyone that you reach.
I got to remember that. And sometimes I'm on the train and I fall asleep. I start reading my newspaper and I fall asleep but it's how I get my extra 30 minutes of sleep. But I want to say this about my dad. I look up to my parents. My dad used to work at the Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
After doing all kinds of construction and any kind of job he can get, and they didn't pay him that well.
Oh.
But he would work endlessly, hours and hours. And when you mentioned $6 an hour, he wasn't making a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe $7 or something,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to pay the rent. He had to buy groceries, and he would work night and day, no matter the weather condition outside.
Yes.
And we have to really honor those sacrifices that people make for us to get where we are today.
Yeah. In fact, today I told my son Kevin, and he's watching us. He asked me for something, and every time he wants something, come to daddy. Don't go to mommy, because mommy says no. So he knows how to go in my phone and go to
Kevin's
Amazon.
Smart.
So the thing is, I said, Kevin, in fact, I was going to take a little nap before the show, and I said, Kevin, I make so much sacrifice. I want to remind them. I said, I make sacrifices for you to get all that you want. And I hope that when I get older, you remember those kind of things. Yeah, so we're going to ask our DJ to get a song lineup. And then I have to ask Richard, what is his plan?
I'm more kind to my dad now than I was growing up.
Oh,
I'll
really?
say that.
Okay.
As a teenager, we fought a lot. We had arguments and stuff, and there were days when we didn't talk to each other. But he stuck through.
He did,
and I guess I did too. But I say that because I know Kevin's growing up.
Yeah, he's growing up. Yes. So let's go for a song, and when we come back, we'll talk to Richard and ask him all the plans that he has for his community after elected.
पवन करे सौर अरे बाबा शोर नहीं सौर हाँ जियरा रे झूमे ऐसे जैसे बनमा नाचे मोर सावन का महीना पवन करे सौर जियरा रे झूमे ऐसे जैसे बनमा नाचे मोर राम गजब धार ये पुरवैया नैया संभालो फिर कोई हो पिवैया राम गजब धार ये पुरवैया नैया संभालो फिर कोई हो पिवैया ओए पुरवैया के आगे चले ना कोई जोर जियरा रे
जाना कहाँ है पूछे नदिया की धारा
मुझे वाकर क्या जाने हमको इशारा
जाना कहाँ है पूछे नदिया की धारा
मर्जी है तुम्हारी ले जाओ जिस ओर जिया रे चुमे जैसे बनमाना चिमो
सावन का महीना पवन करे सोर जिया रे चुमे जैसे बनमाना चिमोर जिया रे चुमे जैसे बनमाना चिमोर जिया रे चुमे जैसे बनमाना चिमोर
Welcome back to the Ken Rampersaud Show here on Island Zone Radio in New York. So, Richard, my next question to you is I want to know what plans do you have for your community that you are going to serve when elected?
The first thing I want to do is make Gilbaka legal again.
That's right.
The
That's
price is
true.
way too high.
Yes.
I want to someone, and if it's even for sale, it's here illegally. And I say that as a joke, but it's true.
Yeah.
It shows though, even things that are really serious and important to the Guyanese community,
Yes.
it doesn't get addressed. And in office with an elected official, you can raise these issues both to the federal government here and to the government in Guyana. And you can increase trade and one of the things I'm always shocked about is like there's not a Guyanese bank on Liberty Avenue and you have to wait for somebody to go home to send money and
Right.
all these cave people practices that are happening, it has to go away. Anyway, that's not why I'm running for office. I'm running for office here because I grew up in poverty. I grew up here. I've lived in this neighborhood for 25 years, and I want to see some of the amazing things I see in the rest of New York City in my own neighborhood. I want to see better schools. I want to make sure that we're better preparing young people for all of the opportunities that are out there so they can really grow up into being wholesome adults and productive members of our community.
I like that, yeah.
Outside of education, I want to see how we can address housing. There's no reason why if you're a homeowner, you're paying, in this neighborhood, you're paying more in property taxes than the millionaires who live along the waterfront in Manhattan. And they have all of the transit options. I want to look at transit. They have ferries and buses and multiple subway lines and express, but all kinds of transit options. And we are funding that. It's our tax dollars that are being used, and we pay more taxes than they pay. They also are living in some of the newer apartments are tax abated for 30 years. So they're not even going to pay any taxes.
Wow.
Where out here do you hear or find any rent abated neighborhoods? It doesn't exist.
Wow.
So I want to make sure that the voices of homeowners and people who live out here is also brought into the conversation.
And I know that you said about our older population. What plan?
And I got to fix that. We got to fix the transit system because I can't keep waiting for the Q41 and it doesn't show up. I can't keep waiting, getting on the A train and it doesn't get me to work on time. It's frustrating. And I want to be a part of a government that's making the life of New Yorkers in my community easier. I'm there to make sure that it's a little bit easier to just live here. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yes.
Cleaner, safer streets. I want to make sure that we have spaces for young people, community centers. And then, I know you're asking about older adults.
Yes.
I want to make sure that older adults in the neighborhood, our seniors, have community spaces that are dignified, that are culturally sensitive. A lot of seniors only eat vegetarian food, and they want to be in a setting that respects that. They want to be in a setting that's going to play music like the one you're playing here. Some good old-fashioned chutney.
All right.
And those are things that should be encouraged and they should be allowed. So I want to, for older adults, I want to make sure that those are the things that we're focused on.
Good for you. I see we have Michael Lee Naidu said, awesome, Richard. I see one of our knowledge celebrity, Miss Sheila Basdeo, who has been singing for many years. Yes, Sheila,
Yeah.
I know you.
Yes, Miss Basdeo.
Her name is synonymous. I know her, but she probably don't know me. Ram Hirilal, all the way from Canada. Roxanne, who lives in Florida, she's saying, I heard about the train too. And Gurli Prasad said, hello, good night, everyone. Diamond Prasad says, good night, David and Ken. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with this guy, Diamond Prasad.
No, but that name. How
yes.
can I'm sure if I cross paths with the Diamond, I'm not going to forget it.
Well, he's a guy that does a lot of things too for Guyana. So I'm sure, definitely sure that some way down the line that
I look forward to meeting him. Yeah.
that you would cross paths with him. And he got a lot of interest in Guyana too. He's always encouraging too, so that's a good thing.
I hope that he's as interested too in New York and in government here. A lot of us from Guyanese backgrounds are so interested in what's happening in Guyana. I think we'll always have our heart and maybe a foot there. I want to make sure that we have a foot in our own community too. We got to care about this neighborhood where our kids are growing up,
Right.
where our tax dollars are being spent. Hundreds of thousands of Guyanese call this home and are not intending to go back to Guyana.
Right.
And if we are not part of the society here, and that means part of your community board, part of your civic association, then you're not really a part of your community. You're not really helping us to grow this community and making it as vibrant as it needs to be. So I love when people are so involved in every village in Guyana. There's a little bit of desire in me to see that same level of interest and participation here in communities that we're a part of.
Yeah, you said it right here too. A lot of time we think about Guyana, and I'm so glad my legs, one in Guyana and one is here, so that's a good thing.
Mine too.
Yeah. we try to do that, and I often tell people one of the reasons I focus a little bit in Guyana is because there's not a lot of areas that we can help people there, like suicide prevention and domestic violence and so on. And in the United States, we have all these things set up. And talking about domestic violence, I would like to see somewhere in New York, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to deviate a little bit, and we're going to go with the tide. In the United States here, especially New York, we have so much women who have been battered and abused and so on by their spouse, and we have some men inside too. I would like to see somewhere down the way we have a Guyanese shelter, because when you go to the shelter system here, it's very different in how we Guyanese live and the Americans live. And so I would like to see sometime down the road we have one where women can go and find some shelter and where they can secure some safety.
I gotta tell you that Guyana is it needs the help, right? And anyone that is able to contribute should contribute. But there are real problems in New York, and not all these problems you can throw money at. And we have a lot of money, but it's not solving this problem. We have more homeless people than probably the capital of Guyana, just without shelter. Mm-hmm. That's as bad as it gets. And these people are living out in the street in the deep winter.
Yes.
We have people without health care and health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who can't find food, because the poverty rate is actually really high in New York too. And it's not, I got to tell you, it's in my community. It's among Guyanese. It's not that different.
Yes.
And so I definitely want to make sure that I'm breaking this myth that New York is this rich place. Yeah, it's very rich, but not all these problems you can throw money at. And I want to make sure that one of the number one driver for homelessness is actually domestic violence, and there are a lot of really great organizations in the neighborhood working actively to help both the survivors of domestic violence and also the violence makers. We want to make sure that we're not tearing families apart, but we have to make sure that we're taking a strong stand against domestic violence.
Absolutely.
And I want to, I talk about how I'm proud of the Guyanese community, and we have built amazing businesses. We've bought, entire neighborhoods are Guyanese,
yes.
and including where we are here, and we've done really, really well. The one area I think that we haven't done as well in is creating and running successful nonprofits. The way government works in New York is you give money to nonprofit organizations and you pay them salaries and everything to run organizations like a domestic violence shelter. We haven't done a really good job really capturing that. We have very few nonprofits that are very, very successful, and the need is incredible. And so professionally run nonprofits with paid staff is something I want to see, and I know that we have to work towards.
I see Lena says, Richard, you are an inspiration for many. Life is all about love. So proud of you. God bless. Always prevail there. Of recently I was listening to the news, and I know you heard that woman who was raped by a young Guyanese guy, and there was some other Sikh guy who was beaten so badly. I saw the pictures on Facebook. What you have to say about crime in Richmond Hill? And what's your plan?
Yeah, so the Maria Fuertes, the 92-year-old woman who was allegedly raped and murdered by a 25-year-old Guyanese person who was undocumented, is a terrible tragedy. I tell people she was our abuela, she was our grandmother, because it happened at midnight, and she felt safe in Richmond Hill. She was walking around at 12 o'clock, which everyone should feel safe to do. And this, I think, is an aberration. I don't think that's normal. I think what happened here is really unusual.
Absolutely.
I think we're shocked by it because it's so unusual. But I want to make sure two things. One, it doesn't mean that crime is out of control. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, because he's undocumented, the president and other people have begun to paint this picture that the president's already been demonizing undocumented people, and this kind of gave him, the ammo. This is the proof that he's been talking about. Again, anyone is capable of committing a heinous crime, whether you're documented or you're undocumented. It doesn't make you more or less prone to commit a crime, and a heinous crime like this was. The safety in Richmond Hill, though. We have two police departments in Richmond Hill South Ozone Park, the 102 and the 106. And violent crime is down, generally. But you have car burglaries, you have home, people going into people's homes. Those are still happening, and thefts. But crime is actually at a historic low, and we want to make sure that we are working with those two police precincts so that we can help them and so that we can support them. These precincts are community spaces as well. And they have rolled out something called a NCO program, a Neighborhood Coordination Officer program. Every block now is assigned a cop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a dedicated cop.
Wow, that's nice.
And all across New York City. And so you can get their cell phone, you can get their personal numbers, and you can text them. Look, I'm seeing this car, these people loitering my streets, or whatever the complaint is. You want to get to know your precinct, and they have monthly meetings where they invite the community to come out. I want to see, sometimes it's a little empty, and I want to see more people come out and just be aware of this. And we were just talking about domestic violence. In every single police precinct, there is a DV counselor, a domestic violence counselor, every single one. And I'm happy that the job that I do, that I just left in the private sector, worked to see that happens. So that every single police precinct isn't just there for, reacting to crime. It's there to prevent it and being proactive. And if somebody is experiencing domestic violence and wants to talk to someone professional and confidential, there is in every single precinct a Safe Horizon employee working. And they're culturally, a lot of them are Guyanese if they're in a Guyanese neighborhood. A lot of them speak different languages if you speak a foreign language. I encourage you to reach out to them if you want professional advice that's confidential.
Yeah, it would be nice if I should
reach out to me and I can connect you. That's
I would love to bring a couple of people on the show, especially, and I always think about the safety of our community, how we can get the police to come, if they would want to come on the show to talk about safety, because, I have my security on the front of my door, the bell, and every time, a lot of times that we get delivery from packages, somebody come, not my package, but they come and pick up people's package and leave it, so we want to talk about all these things. I want to bring the highlights, so people know what to do when these things happen. In terms of immigration, and talking to you and myself, we are too, and I always say who I am really.
Don't wait for something to happen to find out who your police officers are to help you. Try to build a relationship, because you're going to say, oh, they aren't listening to me or taking me seriously, because they don't know you.
Oh, okay.
Believe me, everything works. A lot of things work by who you know. And it's a hard job. They're responsible for the city is 8 million people.
Yes.
Take a day off one day, or take an afternoon, after work, and just go to the precinct. It's on their website when they meet with the community. It's public, and they want you to come.
Oh, good.
I go to a lot of them, and I see a lot of people there. But and you can also invite them if you're having a program. I don't know about a television program, but I know that they come out to community programs all the time. They go to places of worship. They are out there.
Good. When we come back, we are talking, and people talks about illegal aliens a lot of times. I'm saying here is two people that have a success story. You came here illegally. I came illegally too. And you're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing, contributing to the United States. We're going to go for a song, and when we come back, we're going to talk more a little bit about immigration.
The politically correct term that they say now is undocumented, not illegal.
Right. Yes.
But we say backtrack.
Yeah,
right?
backtrack.
We can't hear backtrack.
So when we come back, we'll talk to David. He's going to answer some questions that I have for him. Let's go.
अरे
Good night and welcome back to the Ken Rampersaud Show here on Island Zone Radio and Facebook Live. You know, if you look at the screen, I am not sure if you're seeing the screen now, but you know, the chutney wine, if you guys can attend, or if you can attend, if you could buy a ticket to support Buddy Singh. We got Are You Back fundraiser, and you know, he does a lot of work in Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad, and I heard that they're going to start in India. So the show is $25. It's going to be at the Amazura on Saturday, April the 18th. The address is 91-12 144 Place in Jamaica, New York. So don't forget, guys, please support this wonderful cause. You know, they do a lot of work in Guyana. I don't know, but our face is not showing on the screen. But I hope that you guys are hearing us. So, David, in terms of immigration plan, what plans do you have for immigration in the United States? You know, in terms of green card and so on, is there anything that you can do at your level to make it easier?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that have already been done that we need to raise awareness about. The state of New York just made it legal for people who are undocumented to get driver's licenses. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people know that, and a lot of people are still scared because, you know, there's this belief that now I'm putting myself on a list, and if you know, if the president wants to find people, they can find people that way. The reality is, if the president wants to find you, they can find you if you have a cell phone. They can find you if you have a social media account. And we can't live in fear. We have to just live our lives. The other thing that I can do in this position is to help to fund legal services. A lot of people are even legal here, green card holders, and have lived here for a long time and just haven't become U.S. citizens. So there are free programs, and I can increase funding to support those programs. I can also provide funding for legal representation. A lot of people can't afford it. And in a lot of these cases, domestic violence, it's not just immigration. Mm-hmm. It could be home ownership, or you know, a dispute with a landlord and a tenant. It could be domestic violence. Any civil dispute, there are free legal services that we can continue to fund and make sure that those things are available in our community. The other thing that we can do around immigration is vote. We have a presidential election coming up, and we need to take it seriously. Now, I know a lot of your viewers are in Florida. Mm-hmm. If you're not registered as a Democrat, I'll say it again, you can't vote. And Florida is a swing state. That means sometimes they go Democrat, sometimes they go Republican. The Republican Party has a really unfavorable view about undocumented immigrants. And if you believe that you want to help people to come here, and believe me, it's only like brown immigration. People from you know, Europe and Australia are all over the television. They're all over the movies. They're everywhere. They're immigrants too. Mm-hmm. Our most famous actors and actresses are actually immigrants, but they're white. The president's wife, you know, came here, right. And she's you know, she's an immigrant like we are. And so I want to make sure that people understand that when they say we're not in favor of immigration, they mean from countries that have people like us. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so we have to look out and help, you know, to make sure that we have an equal country. And if you live in Florida, I need you, please go out and vote. I think Florida votes on April 28th as well for president. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Super Tuesday.
That's good. Do they have anything in place now in terms of immigrants, if they need help to become a citizen? But
right in the neighborhood. If you are a green card holder and your time is you have to wait 3 years and then you apply, you can do that for free at your college. I teach at your college, mm-hmm. and we have something there called CUNY Citizenship First. Mm-hmm. It's entirely free, and you can go in and you can get professional help to become a U.S. citizen.
Wow, that's a good thing. So again, Richard, I know people are watching. How can people donate to your cause, if you can say it again?
I'm really happy that Sanina donated. Sanina donated $25, and I want to think it's from listening to the show.
Oh, that's nice.
The way to donate is to go on my website, richarddavid.nyc, and there's a donate link there.
That's right. I see Ajid Nabibak says, Ken Rampersaud, you are doing a great job for Lenora. Well, thank you very much. I'm trying my very best to highlight a lot of things in our community. Nafisa Noor, yes, Ken, I'm hearing loud and clear. Just the screen is frozen. I will have to do something about the screen later on, but I'm glad I have Richard David here. He is a young man all the way from Guyana trying to make a big difference, and he is making a difference. You know, any public place I go, I see Richard is there representing himself, which is a good thing, and that's what we want, visibility of those who are going to serve us. And like I said, I'm going to recap a little bit why I brought Richard here today. I wanted him to come a long time ago because, you know, on this show, I really want to highlight people and to let people know who we have in our community that could help and could be an impact in our community. A young man who has a master's degree. He is also a professor and running for office. It's always good. And I think that it's good when we have to go somewhere and we meet our own Guyanese people. I like that. I like to see that. Knowing that they're there, they understand, and they can help us. Right, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm not doing this for some fancy title. I actually have a fancy title right now. I'm a district leader. That's why you see me everywhere.
Right.
But I've been doing this work even before I got elected as a district leader. And I'm going to be working twice as hard in the state assembly. And that's what we should expect from elected officials. And actually, if you have a community event or a community program, anyone that's listening, and you think I should come out because I can talk to more people there and I can tell them why they should vote and they should participate, invite me. You know, all of my contact information is on my website. And Ken, you know, I'm glad that we're meeting now, but I want to keep working together.
That's right. And I'm glad that we meet again. You know, when I call you, you know, because I tell people and they don't want me to say I'm poor, but, you know, coming from Guyana, I don't know you guys. And a lot of people I don't know. So when I write first, I'm like, what are they going to say? Are they going to come to this guy who people don't really know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, telling my friends, I hope Richard come to my show. And that
so
would be
DJ Fess is a good friend.
Right.
And DJ Fess, you know, Ryan, he says, I have to come on the show.
Yes.
And then Kayla Kumar, who is running to be, she's a young Guyanese girl who is doing amazing things. She's in this Miss Teen USA pageant.
New York, yes.
Miss Teen New York pageant, and I want to support her. And she made sure that I contacted you as well.
Oh, really? Yes.
But
yes.
it's not that hard to get me to participate in things. Just reach out to me.
Yeah, and you know, I
know a lot of people. So if you don't have my contact information, just ask around. I'm sure someone has it.
Yeah. I know how to hunt around now, you know.
Yeah.
If I could hunt around and get all this information on you. In terms of your political future, I know you wouldn't be able to be the president of the United States unless they change the law where you born any place else that, you know, you could be the president. Who do you see yourself in the next 10 years or so? The governor of New York, the mayor, where you have your eye on?
That's so funny. If you asked me last year if I thought I'd be in this position, I would say no, because I don't have a 10-year plan.
No?
And, you know, to be honest with you, I don't want to be in politics forever. I don't, you know, I want to be, and you can see that in my career. I like to do things that are different. I like to try new challenges. But I want to be in a position where I'm helping people. And I can say that in 10 years from now, I'll still be in a position where I'm helping people, either as a politician or as a business owner or something else.
Well, whatever you do, I hope that, and I know that you have reading a lot of information on the internet. I know that you have all the support, and I have no doubt that you will win the seat.
This is the most, thank you. This is, guys, I hope you're listening to this. This is the most well-researched interview I've actually come on. And I've gone on some big interviews. I've been on New York One. I've been on a lot of programs. This is the most well-researched interview that I've done.
Well, thank you. You make my hair stand up there a little bit.
No, it's true. This is very, very thorough. And you found things that aren't, you know, a lot of people will say to me, oh, can you just email me your bio? And I'm happy to do that. It's normal. And you didn't do that, but somehow you found all of this information that's not even included in the bio that I give out.
Oh, yeah?
And, you know, you asked me, you found that I became a homeowner at 25.
Yes.
The reason I became a homeowner at 25 is because there's a guy in the neighborhood. His name is Herman Singh.
I know that name.
When I was a kid, when I was young and growing up, I heard him make a speech, and he said, I bought a house at like 21. I was like, oh my God, one day I want to buy a house when I'm like young. And so it's been like planted in my head for a long time. But to pay for graduate school, I didn't know that I was going to get a scholarship. And the only way for me to pay for a graduate school is if I bought a house and rented it out, because I didn't want to be in debt. And so that's what I did.
Good for you. You are doing a fantastic job. I see Priya says, well, we are lucky and grateful to you. Roxanne said you may not want to, but it's your calling. And so she's right. If God have that calling for you to be the governor of New York, I think that you should really embrace it. I like to go with the grain. And even when I started with my little work that I do.
Cane cutting or a nurse?
No. You know, I don't think that I'll survive the cane cutter. And I think that's why I worked so hard to be all that I am today. You know, and it's true. I'm old. I'm sure I'm much older than you. And, you know, the way I look at things in this perspective is that I don't know where I'll be. Because I believe that the future is uncertain. But one of the things that I will always do, Richard, that I would encourage you to do with some of the experience that I went through in life, is to embrace the good things that come your way and always remain true to your. You know, this is the piece of my little advice that I give people that comes because of my experience and the hard time that I went through in life. And I always tell people, you know what, embrace the good things that come your way and always be true and kind to yourself, and you are going to meet so many people, touch so many lives, and you don't know how many lives you are going to touch. And you know, one of the things someone wrote me, I don't know why, but every time I get a good comment, somebody would inbox me a nice comment, and they would say, Ken, I really admire you. I like what you're doing.
It's motivating.
It is motivating. And I was in bed last night, and a friend, I forget her name now, she writes something so nice, and I respond to her back inbox. And I said to myself while I was lying in my bed, I don't know why I always tear up a little bit when I hear these things. And I said to myself, you know what? I feel so good, like I won $1 million. And that's why our words sometimes, it's best to make it kind and to be good to each other. And that's what I want to encourage you as you journey in this path, that you be something of that nature. And I could tell that it's happening because you raise so much money and you're such a young guy and you are in so far in life, right?
First of all, thank you. I embrace advice and I embrace feedback, even if it's critical. But it's motivating when you hear people say you're making a difference or you helped in some way. And you know, I mentioned that my dad recently passed away. And the way you talk and the way you're, you know, framing this conversation, it reminds me of him.
Yes.
And I try to think of him as much as I can. Thank you for doing what you do, because you're making a difference, a real meaningful difference in the lives of so many people as a nurse. But you're doing this program too, which is kind of fun. Yeah. And it's, you know, people are getting to, you're building a community here. Yeah, and it's a great thing.
Well, thank you very much, especially coming from you. You know, let's get a song, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up. We got 10 minutes more to run the show.
Come out to jam, 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 jam. Hey, sing, baby.
सात समंदर पार में तेरे पीछे पीछे आ गए, मैं तेरे पीछे पीछे आ गई। जुल्मी मेरी जान, ओ जुल्मी मेरी जान, तेरे कदमों के नीचे आ गई। सात समंदर पार में तेरे पीछे पीछे आ गए, मैं तेरे पीछे पीछे आ गई।
Hey, girl, you never tell me where you're from, my ballin' out. Hey, girl, why
Why you take me heart and gun? I will rock it on you, show you a different side of me, a different side of me. You never tell me where you from, my ballin' out, hey, girl. Why you take me heart and gun? I will rock it on you, show you a different side of me, a different side of me.
Welcome back to the Ken Rampersaud Show here on Island Zone Radio. We're talking today to David. You know, he's running for a political office. So, David, let me ask you a question. You know, the election is coming up very soon in Guyana, which is March the 2nd. What's your take and what do you expect? What advice you have for the people of Guyana with all the altitude that we're getting?
They're going to be sending donations here to New York. You know, I think that these elections are long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone should go out and vote.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm worried more about, I think we'll have a peaceful election.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've built a recent tradition of peaceful elections in Guyana from 1992 on to now. And I want to see that we continue to build on that. You know, the fears just haven't really, in my lifetime, come true. And then you compare Guyana to other countries around the world, and it's actually one of the most peaceful places that you can ever find. And so I'm actually going to Guyana myself, and I go to Guyana as often as I can, and I always have a good time. Nothing's ever happened when I've gone to Guyana, thank God. But I'm more worried about some of the comments that I see online about the Guyana elections. Some people are saying some really inflammatory things. Some people are really stirring up emotions and division. And I think we just got to be more responsible and police a little bit of that. And I say police because the internet's a free space and anyone can say anything. And that means that when you see a hateful comment, when you see a racist comment, when you see a divisive comment, then we have to condemn it. We have to, really push back against that. Because I think that, we've seen even in the American elections that online determines the winner. The internet and social media is an incredible space, and it can be weaponized. And so I want to make sure that people are using it in a productive way leading up to these elections. But I'm optimistic. Look, this is a great opportunity to elect a government that the Guyanese people want, and I think that I think there is, with oil and other things on the horizon, a bright future for Guyana, not just on the world stage, but at home for Guyanese people.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but I know that you had a symposium not too long ago with the guy, Meeks. What was, I know you had a conversation with him and you brought him on. What was his take? But I guess what, guys, I may have a big talk here with Gregory Meeks. I hope David can put a word in so that he can come on the 2nd of next month.
I can try. So we, I've election or no election, I want elected officials here who are at the federal level or any level to be familiar with Guyana, because they're representing a Guyanese community. Guyanese are the second largest immigrant group in all of Queens. A lot of people don't know that. After the Chinese community,
Chinese, yes, I read that.
Guyanese. And he's in Congress, so he should be going to Guyana more often. And he said to me that he would. And now, especially with an election, with the Carter Center there and a lot of institutions in Guyana, we want to see free, fair, and credible elections. And I'm really glad that a congressional delegation went. But it's unpredictable when they were voting to impeach the president, and we couldn't find which day they were going to be able to go, and the trip actually got canceled a couple of times because the impeachment vote kept changing.
Right.
So these things you can't control, and I don't know if the congressman's available to come on the show. I'd love for him to come on the show, but even we have to have those expectations of our government. A lot of congressional people go to Israel. A lot of congressional people go to the Dominican Republic. They go to all over the world. We need to make sure that they're going to Guyana, and they have to have a reason for going. I talk about trade, and when I say that we need to make Gilbaka illegal again, I'm very serious.
Yes.
That's a federal issue, and they need to create better federal policies on both sides, in Guyana and here, to allow import and export of these basic products that Guyanese people expect. Otherwise, you're going to encourage smuggling and other things, which, I don't want to see. I want to see people pay taxes and these kinds of things so that we can fund the things that we need here. I don't want to see, I want to see a better government. I want to see easier travel. I'm happy to see so many airlines going to Guyana. My goodness, though, I tried to book a hotel room in Georgetown. It's so expensive.
Oh, really?
It's really expensive. I haven't actually booked as yet, but I've been looking, and it's expensive, which is a sign of things going, of a vibrant economy.
Yes. Let's say hello to Michael Nalini Naidu's great job, Ken and Richard. And that's what we are, a team. Anyone that comes here, we are a team. Selecta Abid, all the way from Canada. Razia Hanif, thank you very much for tuning in. Linai, and let's see what Nafiza Noor. I don't know if you've met Nafiza Noor, but she's always a pleasure to talk to. She says, it's always a pleasure listening to your wonderful session. Can bring a great people on your program with great knowledge. Keep up the good work. Richard, help the community. God bless you always. Have a great week ahead. Same to you. Gloria says, good evening. Well spent, Ken and Richard, listening to both of you. So guys, thank you very much for watching the Ken Rampersaud Show. I want to say again, Richard, I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart that you came to this show. And I hope that God bless you, that you get all those votes. And I encourage people to go and vote, that they could vote you in, and you can make a difference in your community. I thank you again.
I'm glad I came on the show. We need 4,000 votes to win this election, and you know, Terry Godrod can get 4,000 people to fill up a room. We can get people to show up on election day, and you know, I came to this program after I think 7 events today.
Wow.
And I'm so glad that I did, because you have such a welcoming family. I enjoyed the coffee.
Yeah,
and you're
you.
such a good person to meet. I
Thank
should have
you.
met you earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And all the very best, okay? I know this is not the end. When after you win the election, you can come back again anytime you want to. Or, you know, if there's anything that you want to do, feel free to come on the Ken
I appreciate
Rampersaud
the
Show.
standing invitation. That's very kind of you.
I always
will
tell-
take you up on that.
Thank you. I always tell people, when you come one time, you get the golden key to come back again.
You gotta. Okay.
You know, so we're gonna go with some music again. I say, Richard, thank you so much for coming on the Ken Rampersaud Show. And if there's anyone that you know, because you know I don't know a lot of people, and you want them to come on the program, just let me know, and they're on.
Okay,
Okay?
I will. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.